course of this meeting. And we have at the moment here the follow-up recommendations from the steering committee meeting in front of us. How should we do it? Should we do why don't we jump into the presentation of the first agenda item and then have a little round of feedback at the occasion of which we hear from you? Would that sound okay, Peter?
Yeah, that sounds great. I think it's a relatively small group, so we can go through pretty quick. But yeah, so we just wanted to give a bit of an update and follow up on any discussions that might have happened during the steering committee meeting. I wasn't able to attend, unfortunately, but yeah, if there's any, wanted to go through some of the recommendations to see if that, to see if there's any immediate follow-up on that. And just a general update on the platform, some of the developments, and specifically we wanted to show you this updated MEA sections to get your validation and approval of that so that we can move that already to the live section and start accommodating some requests for creating the MEA sections. So I don't think I had a couple points of update of the platform, but I think we don't really need to because the steering committee meeting was pretty recently and most of it's already in the Prezi. But the broad strokes, basically, we have 9 new courses, 3 updated MEA courses within the last year or so. And increasingly what we've seen is basically every MEA has an introductory course now. A lot of those introductory courses have been updated some multiple times. So that's an ongoing process. But beyond that, also, we have some of these more either technical or thematic courses from the MEAs. So it's great to see, but we're also thinking about how we evolve the platform to accommodate that. So for instance, we had the plastic waste amendment course, a course for BRS, specifically for capacity building for BRS chairs. We had a more technical course with the Ramsar Convention on wetlands for the SDRP, and then a set of UNFCCC courses delving beyond the introductory level to matters of compliance and national implementation. And then we know that we have in the pipeline a number of more courses like that, so it's great to see. And then we also wanted to hear from you what you have in the pipeline, basically. So as Eva said, we can try and plan around that and see if budget needs to be raised for certain aspects of it, and just try and make a roadmap for the next sort of half year to a year. Another thing I wanted to mention on the work we've been doing on e-learning is now that we have this set of introductory courses, we've been pivoting a bit to focus on translations. So we have a pack of translations, which was actually produced under a different under Infomea 3 project, and it's been kind of sitting in the sidelines for a while because it takes some time and some effort to integrate those into the interactive modules. But we're getting to some of those. So there's a bit of a backlog there, but we're also looking at future translations and of new courses. And a number of MEAs have started to do that themselves where they have that capacity. So it's also an invitation if you have some capacity to start producing translations yourselves, either if you have through translation services or if you have some of, especially the UN language abilities on your team, then you can reach out and I can explain a bit how you can do that directly on the RISE platform, which you all have access to. The other development before I move on to the MEA sections is one of the major things that happens between the 13th and the 14th steering committee in terms of the platform development was the new MEA course pages. So that addressed a bunch of issues in terms of language availability, shareability by social media, being able to share previews of courses without immediately being met by sort of a login wall, and just a lot of look and feel and modernization. So the course page has been rolled out maybe a half year or so ago. And so now we've been going through the work of actually applying that to existing courses. So today we have 10 upgraded courses now. So the process is basically we put out a notice that alerts the users that it will be temporarily unavailable for a number of days, but without having to create a new course, we basically retrofitting the old courses. And we're in the process of basically contracting for the consultant to be able to do another 10 of those. we're prioritizing courses that either have translations incoming or are particularly outdated or a number of other criteria. But so that's I think the main things. Then there was also, sorry, actually also one thing I wanted to mention was one of the other developments in terms of the evolution of the platform is in the last year we upgraded to Moodle 4.2, which doesn't mean that much, but it's in just contemporary with other platforms and updates. And there's one specific feature which is quite useful, which is that it allows you to replicate courses. So before, where it was a lot of manual work in the backend to create on the Moodle platform individual courses, which then would be populated by the Rise content and so forth. That's gotten a bit more streamlined, and so we're going to look into how that can make it easier for MEAs to be able to create small courses and modules. And then we had a review of the Moodle reports, and so this is a bit in the weeds, but the summary of that is that it allows us to better look at gender breakdown, which had been kind of not functioning before that, and the geographic breakdown. So that's at the platform level. But if you want statistics for your individual course, of course, you're always welcome to request that from us as well. For work that we have upcoming, we still have slated some work with OdaWeb to improve dashboards. This is two kinds of dashboards, one for the students, for the actual users of the platform to be able to see the courses they're taking and sort of the navigation and the look of that. And then the second is looking at dashboards for the actual owners of the course. So you, the MEAs, to be able to get as a glance a sort of pre-figured reports on the courses so that it's easier and you can more regularly keep track of the statistics. And then some small pages, some small tweaks to the homepage and user navigation that are a bit more, minutiae. So with that, those are the main upgrades in the last year or so and scheduled upgrades. And then the main thing that I wanted to discuss today was the MEA sections. So this was from a steering committee recommendation. I think it was a couple steering committees ago. It's been a long time coming. And the idea, oh, sorry, yeah, I am able to share. So let me just grab the screen. Except then it always disappears. 1 second, sir. The idea behind this page is now, as we do have more and more MEA sort of thematic or technical or kind of sub courses, to have a place that is kind of the MEA's own home where they can curate their selection of courses. That would include both the courses that are available from the main page, but also these more specific courses. So for example, courses that are behind an encryption key or are really, really specific to this one set of national focal points or this one very technical body that doesn't really interface with the public. That would be more logical, I think, to be on these MEA sort of sub pages. And then here you can also have more extended list of courses and platforms associated to the or related to the work of the MEA outside of Infomea. So there's no real need for an MEA to create one of these pages until they have a course that fits into this category, where it's not necessarily public facing enough to be on the main page, but still should exist somewhere on an e-learning platform, along with the general suite of MEA courses. So for example, CBD, who unfortunately wasn't able to attend today, has these three more specific courses coming up on access and benefit sharing that would be available from here, as well as the more general courses on Cartagena, Nagoya introductory courses on CBD generally. So this is what it would look like. The navigation is, so this is on the development instance for now. The navigation is deliberately very similar to the homepage with the same look and feel of the thumbnails. So the title of the MEA would be here. You can use whatever background image, of course, that you want. It's clear from here that you can navigate back to home. I won't do it now because it'll bring me just to the development home. And then you can also switch between MEA subsections here once we have, of course, more than one. You're still able to filter for SDGs as you were on the home page. And then instead of the thematic, i.e. biodiversity, chemicals and waste, marine, freshwater logo, you just have a small watermark of the logo of the MEA. So that's basically it. And then you also have this section here that you can link to external platforms in a bit more depth than you could from the category page. So just to compare. And so this is what the main page looks like. So we've replaced basically the diploma section with that affiliated and external courses. And the idea is that you would be able to navigate to these MEA sections from this side panel here. So we shared the link in the agenda, and we would appreciate if anyone can take a look, and if you have any comments now, and otherwise take a look after the fact and then after the meeting and send us any feedback. And if there's nothing major, then we can move to production pretty soon. And then also let us know if you would eventually want us to create one of these MEA subsections. But like I said, there's no real need until you have this quantity of courses that merits a specific MEA section. But I think a lot of MEAs are moving in that direction, so it's just good to have a heads up. The last, sorry, comes to me. The last kind of benefit of this is it would be a more specific sort of sub URL. You can't see it with the development, but for featuring on MEA pages or in communications, then you would have this URL that already filters all of the courses that you've selected that are relevant, both these sort of sub courses and these more general courses for your MEA. I'm not sure if you want to go quickly into the steering committee recommendations, just to go over what was discussed there to see if that if there's any follow-up, or if we should maybe go to a round of feedback. Sorry, a round of updates from the MEAs.
I mean, I think I would maybe just pause to see whether there are any comments, and then in the comments we can see whether anything comes up. What we have of the recommendations, and I can quickly screen share them also, is a number of recommendations that's about the specific e-learning courses that have already been slotted in then. And of course, these we have to confirm. I think we have here the Barcelona Convention, we have CITES Ramsar, we had the idea to do a course on scientific platforms, and that's of course all between this and the next steering committee meeting, and the cross-cutting course on indigenous peoples. And of course, it depends on where's the material coming from. So this is just to recall what we have been looking at, and that of course we cannot report on now, but we can maybe invite you to see whether you want to, revisit this. Then we have also the translation issue, where I know you are now working on a new push of an additional set of translations to be worked in. I think we will share with you in the next 1 or 2 weeks the status quo to see, and then you could also let us know whether you have any translations coming up, as Peter has already mentioned. The review and harmonize the links to relevant e-learning courses. I mean, we have the situation where some of you are having courses on different platforms that you, of course, want to be featured. And irrespective of whether on your own website or others, we are happy to get them. And that was the MEA landing page that is already now being presented today. And I was actually exactly thinking of this aspect of it, Peter. How easy is it now for the CBD to create a direct link? I guess it's fairly easy, but I'm wondering whether there's something like a little applet, that you can basically connect to, and how easy this is and how much work this would need. This is a question for all of you. And the regular statistics of the courses, I think that is related to the dashboards that we already have under contract, as you have mentioned, Peter. So that means they are already slotted in, the work is already programmed. It's just a question of how far it goes and how much this diverts of the dashboards are for monitoring purposes. And I think it captures everything. But then, of course, you also have the very individual and deeper feedback that's available. I think that's covering it. So, and of course, the whole idea of partnerships with universities, this is something that we are only in the beginning of doing, but we are actually also happy to hear from you what your suggestions are. Yes. Outreach, of course, it's a great tool. The e-learning tool that gives us a lot of numbers, and we are preparing the next newsletter in this regard. And again, any support or any interest in having something slotted in there from your MA is welcome. Okay, I think I leave it at that, and maybe it's time for a quick set of observations and comments from you. Let me stop sharing so I have a better view. Yes, quick round of feedback, thoughts. Oh, and Peter, yeah, I let you compliment anything that falls.
Sorry, yeah, no, and just to add before we go to the round of feedback, what would be super helpful is if you could think about, and then we've had some bilaterals already, and happy to have follow up as well, on the list of courses that you have basically in the next half to 1 year. Anticipated courses or e-learning or capacity building development, right? And then basically what the timelines are on that, if it's kind of a nice to have or if it's something that's already slated, and then I guess what the rough plan is for the development of the content. Some of that will be follow up as well, I'm sure. But then it's nice to have in this form as well because I think it triggers cross pollination between the MEAs. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, I see, Georgina, you have to leave. I'm so sorry. Did you want to share anything still before you're leaving? Okay, something.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you, Eva. No, I'm sorry, I need to drop off, but no, there is continuing to be quite a strong demand, particularly in the Pacific for online learning. With universities in the Pacific, we're getting a lot of interest still from the University of the South Pacific, and also outside of universities, continuing to get interest with lawyers and judges for MEA courses. And we're going to be doing an outreach course with lawyers in September, together with SPREP, which is the South Pacific Environment Program. And we're going to be using a number of the Infomea courses. So I think that is certainly one area where we continue to do outreach. I did want to update as well for our intermediate course that we developed for lawyers and judges in Asia and the Pacific. One of our partners, IUCN, has gotten some funding to do a more formatted version of the workbook. And so they are getting that more professionally formatted and edited. And once we receive that, we'll be able to upload it onto the course page. So I'll share that with you once we have it. And they're wanting to also share that with judges in the Pacific as also an offline resource as well. So yeah, we can catch up about all of this a bit more bilaterally and discuss other courses. But right now, just to let you know, I think there are no additional courses in the pipeline for the moment for the Asia Pacific.
Thank you so much, Georgina. I mean, I'm now speaking maybe on behalf of the MEAs, but also on our behalf. I mean, for us to hear that this is something that's sought after in the region, this kind of compilation of MEA-related courses is, of course, super, super helpful. And we are super excited to, exchange further and to also track and share your experiences, because, that's exactly what is needed. And that's also where some of the translations come in. I know your region is probably more diverse when it comes to that than others, and English is very strong, but still it would be nice to know how you have been able to handle even non-UN translations as you did as well. So a lot of things to discuss. We are super grateful that you took the time and stayed awake to join us and share this with us. So thank you so much, Georgina, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Wonderful. Maybe quickly for a little round of thoughts and feedback and guidance. I have seen that Marina has raised her hand, and Marina has also just joined us last, I think. So Marina, over to you quickly, beginning this round, and then I think we'll also, go one by one. Over to you, Marina. You have to unmute.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick update where we left during the steering committee meeting. So we were working with ECLAC David on a small update of SDG 16 course. The work is still in progress, so we hope that we would be able to do it and then help maybe with the translation of in other languages of the changes that we are making. And I have maybe a question to Peter regarding whether the course pages would allow us to announce only UN languages or also additional languages, because we have discussed the possibility of translation into Portuguese and maybe some other key languages of the region, of the sub-regions that might be useful for constituencies. Thank you.
Especially the Escazú course, I think we had done some work there. I think even Peter that we have been, there was some, did we get some of these translations?
Long story, but we had not that long, but we had a translation of the human rights defenders in Portuguese, but for various reasons it never went live.
But we had even started building it. It was not only that we got So it's something that we could revisit. I mean, it's if, of course, I think it didn't come with funding, or did it come? Sometimes that's another element that we are still having to look into. It's very, very complicated to do funding arrangements, because very often the amounts are small and the administrative effort is very high. But of course, it's also to be kept in mind that if there is some funding behind the potential, for instance, to build pages, there is a lot of synergies to be achieved. And I remember that there was at least an interest and potential funding in the context of this translation, right?
But if we can make the translation, for example, and or like our partners, can we just share the translation and it can be uploaded just to know better, to understand better the mechanism?
Well, so to return to your first question of if the new course page format can accommodate non-UN languages, yes, it can. We don't have any examples of that yet, but I see no reason why it can't be done. In terms of the process for translations, basically there's 3 steps maybe. First is to create a translation table of the content from the interactive modules. And that could include texts of videos and things. So sometimes it takes some work. And then all the different elements of the course, so the quiz, the syllabus, the course page, etc. So one is to create the translation tables. Then you either have to, of course, translate in-house or get a quote from, we use Yunnan. All of the translations we've gotten are from Yunnan. Since we started doing this, I know that machine translation has gotten a lot better, but it's still, for legal purposes, it's still, I've dealt with this somewhat recently, where I can tell kind of in Latin languages that it's translating party as festival, not party, and of course that can be quite bad. So things like that, and it's then of course impossible for me to know if it's been mistranslated in Chinese or Arabic or Russian. So, and that's just me. It depends who's inputting the translation. Anyway, so the translation, receiving the translations back. The second step then is to actually put that text, which would just be a Word document, into these modules. So it depends what the course was created as, but our standard now is RISE. So if it's a RISE course, then you basically have to create a duplication of all the different, in SDGs instance, all the 5 RISE modules, and input those translations. That comes with different complications if the character limits are different. So just to say there's a bit more to it. Not an enormous amount, but And so that can either be contracted for, or it can be done by the MEAs if they have the willingness to play around with that and the time or resources to do that, because you can do that with the access to the guest RISE license that you have. So that's number 2, to actually then, create the new syllabuses and documents and everything else as well. But the main thing is the RISE modules for most courses. And then the third is to basically plug those back in to the Moodle course. So that takes some Moodle expertise as well, because you basically have to, with the HTML, set it so that when English is selected, English appears, Spanish is selected, Spanish appears, test it, run through it, make sure that in the quiz, the right feedback is coming.
Don't tell me we have lost him.
But yeah,
Okay.
It's not an insurmountable thing, but just say, sorry.
Okay, so far for the process. Marina, does this answer your question?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's good to know what does it imply. So yeah, we will keep this in mind. Yeah, if we would be able to move forward. I guess that the good thing would be to have some like consultant, yeah, that then could help to integrate maybe other languages in the platform, like in cooperation with your team, because it would require everyone's time. Yeah, but I guess that for changes in SDG 16 course, and I see that David has also joined us, so we will try to do it ourselves, but we limit it to UN languages for now.
Just to say, because when you said the team, yes, so basically for the third element, the integration of Moodle, it is probably wise to cooperate. All the other elements, I mean, in principle can be done independently, but the third element is where, obviously it makes most sense to, it's a very specific skill set and we're trying to build it, but we will see how feasible it is. Yes, I think it's now time to also invite all other colleagues around the tables. I know that I'll start with CITES because I know we had a number of preceding discussions, and I think we can quickly ask Salihin to share with us. And
Sure.
It's lovely, of course, to hear that David has joined. So then, yeah.
Thank you, Eva and Peter. Hello, everyone. So yeah, I mean, for the CITES, we have had a plan and we have started developing. We have a list of 10 courses that we started working on since last year, on various themes under the convention. Now, some of these courses are, I mean, we are developing the stuff, the CITES secretary staff are actually developing, and we had to sort of find time to do that, and from various, taking materials from various resources. Now, we have finalized the content for 1 and 2 courses out of those theme-based courses that I think I should sort of mention this morning to Peter. So we will be hopefully, I mean, there are more coming in the pipeline. Right now, the challenge is obviously we cannot sort of give a strict date when we will be able to finish them, but we are definitely working on them to share with you all. I mean, with you for the Informia platform under the new MES section. So the one that we have finalized, the content finalized, it's called the transport of live specimens, which is one of the major topic for transporting the live animals and plants. We have also worked on the CITES bodies, which I'll have to check. One of my colleagues was working on it, so I have to check whether that's finished or not. But so those are the 2 courses right now. We are sort of towards the end of finalization. So that's sort of the update from the CITES Secretariat side.
And if I may ask, are you then interested in, once you have all these courses, you're interested in having a subsection similar to what CITES has now been building, right?
Yes, that's the idea. So the outline is quite detailed, and I think that's also another idea. Now, how much of those subsections we will be able to develop, we are not quite sure about it, right? So that's kind of the challenge. As you know, Haruko was sort of working on it until now, and Haruko, if other colleagues, if you know, she's the head of the outreach and projects unit, and she has just moved to another unit. She's sort of transitioning, and I'm sort of taking over from her slowly on this e-learning bit. So I will be able to give you more precise updates perhaps in the next few weeks, also bilaterally with Peter and you, Eva. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sanhin, for this update. And yeah, we're of course super excited to work with you on this. Then let me maybe just go through the list. We have already heard from Jingwen. I don't know, Jingwen, whether you want to come back on any of what you have seen, or we can do this a bit later, because you just now appeared in my list. So quickly over to you, and then I go up. Any feedback? Anything you? Yeah.
It looks good. And congratulations, very good work, Peter, you have done. And also Eva with the team on the e-learning. But I do have one question, because during the steering committee meeting, we mentioned that we might be able to use the Informia, the Drupal tool directly to feed the information to the Informia portal instead of using the API. And then I got email asking me to, because I start talking to our ICT, and I got email from the Informia and saying, please don't proceed. Is there any background information you would like to share? Is that a security issue or?
Okay, I think this is something we should definitely look at. Let's have a bilateral on this, Jingwen, because this is now the e-learning meeting, and to be honest, I have to get on top of things. And of course, the other unfortunate situation that is that James, who was with us, is now out, and Raluca is in. So let us investigate and get back to you on this, as it is not so directly e-learning related, but it's a very valid point. So Jingwen, we will follow up with you on this and find out what the background is to it. Okay. Because definitely, yes, we want to do the people. So let's make a meeting maybe with Christy and Ude Web and our internal team to look at that more closely. So good that you reminded us of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. So then maybe over to David, who has joined us from ECLAC. Good morning, David, and over to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon to you, colleagues. Good to see you. I hope everything's well. Sorry I missed the first part, so probably I wasn't able to check on the new updates. But from our side, as Marina was saying, to update actually the SDG 16 course. And what we're doing is complementing this with an in-person training starting next year. So as of March next year, and we hope that this will be regularly done. We will have a course for delegates and for interested stakeholders on the agreement, and we want to have the in-person complemented with this virtual. So we would require everyone before they come in to have taken the online. So at least we meet two objectives, right? So one, disseminate Informia and get an additional use to it, and the other one is that delegates that come to the in-person training. I mean, the 2.0 course, they have at least some basics. So from here until the end of the year, we will work with Peter and the team there, Marina, to finalize. I know it's been ongoing for some time, but we will certainly do that before the end of the year. I'm wondering if there's any opportunity of having a specific subsection as well on say Escazú more in depth, or we keep it as is. But that we can discuss next year. It doesn't have to be right now. In terms of the other priorities, remember at the steering committee meeting. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we are here.
Okay. We had raised a few new ideas as to courses, totally new courses. From our side, the indigenous knowledge or indigenous communities, peoples, which would be a cross-cutting course, would be something we would like to highlight if we can next year. We do have a few events that have a lot of indigenous buy-in. So next year we will hold the Regional Environmental Defenders Forum, which will be the third edition, and we have more than half of participants are indigenous. So it would be a good opportunity to get that. I don't know if we have time to do it before, or at least to some mock or some introduction or something. But that's something we would be keen on working on next year, the indigenous one, if that's still within your within your agenda for next year. So I'll leave it there. I think that there's much to do on our side. So after COP16, the CBD COP16, which we are very much engaged in, I think we will have some time to polish that and give the final touches. So we can end the year well with that.
Wonderful.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, David. And yes,
Okay.
we have it in the recommendation, specifically in the indigenous cross-cutting course. It's indeed cross-cutting would involve CBD, content and content from different MEAs. So that would be very interesting. And it's also actually something that will be useful because in our project, we need to also report back on specifically indigenous people's work as we do on gender. And I'm trying to see whether any MEA has a specific gender course coming up. We are having a bigger gender course, but we need to also show some specific, we have to earmark some specific activities against gender and indigenous people, so it fits well. So thank you so much, David. And over to, I know Claire and Carla. I think maybe it would be nice to hear from both of you. I'll start with Carla and then over to Claire. Carla?
Thank you. And just supporting the initiative, I think it's a good idea. The improvements on the portal and having this possibility to have the channel, let's call it, I don't know, the channel, the areas specific for some topics. I think that may facilitate the usability of the portal, especially now that the catalog is growing nonstop, as we can hear today here in the call. So from our side, I checked with our colleagues, and we do have new courses to be copied and one under development. So I can send an email if you prefer, because then it's easier for you to track. But basically, as we discussed before, Eva and Peter, we have a NIPS under the Stockholm Convention, which is currently available on the UNCC Learn platform. And we would like to have it also in the Infomia.
Yeah.
And that's Stockholm specific. And then we have another one which applies for the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm conventions, linking the three conventions to the SDGs that are relevant for these three conventions. So that's also with UNITAR, but in another group of UNITAR, the chemicals and waste group. We also would like to have that copied in the Infomia, available in the Infomia platform, and a new one on the pipeline being developed on the Rotterdam, so specific on Rotterdam. So we're talking about three. The final is the enforcement one that we discussed briefly the last time we talked. That one is available on the WCO platform, the World Customs Organization, in different languages, and we would appreciate having it also in the Infomia. Tatiana also informed me that they are translating that one in Spanish right now, so that would be available in multiple languages. But then the details on how, where, and because different people will be involved, we would need to discuss with you when that would happen and how. But so
Yeah.
Three that could be available soon and one being developed right now. That's the summary.
Okay, especially the copying is something where we can use the resources right away, or we can slot it in because it's fairly straightforward. And just to say that our long-term aim and goal would still be to be in double with UNITAR, but there we are waiting for them. And of course, in the meantime, it's easiest to do it this way. And it also means that we have direct access to the, for the updating. Actually, you will have direct access for that, which also makes maybe things easier. And then one has to just coordinate. So very happy to have this work piling on. I'm just looking very quickly at Claire, whether she has anything to add.
Thank you, guys.
Maybe.
No, hello. Nothing specific to add to add on the e-learning development section.
Wonderful, excellent. Great. So I think from who we have, and over to Ramsa. Robert, sorry, you have been sleeping down, and yes, over to you.
Thank you, Eva. So yeah, just first of all, Peter, it looks great. The course page, would certainly be interested in it. I was also wanted to ask if maybe for the future, could it be possible to make subfolders within the specific MEA page or not? And it's not that it's crucial for us, but it's just an option that could be explored. And on the future courses, as I mentioned during the steering committee, we had one in mind regarding RSAS, which was already noted in the recommendations, but some other things to precedent. And now, because we're
Sorry, which one did you say? A course, what is in the recommendations?
A course for Ramsar as a priority, but
Yeah.
we didn't go into specifics on what this priority is, and it was good that I didn't, because now the idea that we had has shifted around a bit.
Exactly.
And we're having a national well and inventory workshop in Korea this September, and because the materials will be already prepared, the idea was to adapt them to have also an online course for the people that could not join, because due to lack of resources we cannot invite all the parties to be in that course, and it's going to be a long process. So with the idea of starting to work with this course after September, so October, and have it ready by early next year, the latest probably, for us, that would be it. And also another update that I got, we have translations of our introductory course. I haven't gotten around to mention it to Peter, but that could be a thing that we can also work on in the coming months, because we already have them. We just need to double check some vocabulary that's not quite there, but that should be fairly straightforward. So that's it for us.
That sounds very good. So we hear that in principle there is nothing major that you have brought up that you are unhappy with the specific course page. Of course, it's CBD ultimately who has to accept it, because it's the CBD instance of it. I don't know, I leave over to Peter about the subfolders, but of course, I think first we need to get enough content to have a MEA specific page. And then I think it also depends on the resources the individual MEAs have to kind of monitor this page, right? Because as soon as you have 4 or 5 courses and you want to see who is taking them, there's a little bit of work involved. But the idea, is interesting. I think it's in theory possible. Whether it's advisable is another matter. So maybe quickly over to Peter, whether you have any observations on the different elements that we had.
Yeah, so thanks for all the updates on the subfolders. It's an interesting idea, I think, but as you say, probably for a next iteration. Another option would be just filterability, depending on what the use case is. If it's just like capacity building that you want to be able to isolate, then maybe it would be simpler to I would need to check if it's actually possible to create subfolders within categories of Moodle, but filtering could also, approximate the same. Yeah, Robert?
Yeah, it was just an afterthought, like for the future, because these
exactly.
These trainings, the national well inventories, this is just one module, but on the upcoming 3 years, there are going to be other iterations that further develop. So maybe we'll have like 3 courses going into more specific on this, but still to be defined. But it was just a thought for the future. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So yeah, so the just to clarify, the subsections would be pretty standard across MEAs. What, at least for this first instance, then what they have, what we could tailor to each MEA instance would be basically the selection of courses and the links on the side to externals, to external platforms and courses. I think that's. I don't have much more. The only other thing was from the recommendations. I really think the cross-cutting courses are kind of a good idea and an asset of this platform that has all the MEAs together. So there's the indigenous. There was also a recommendation of how scientific bodies interface with MEAs. And then Marina had an idea of, I think it was a GMOs course. But just to add to that, that it really has to be, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Eva, but it really has to be the MEAs who are in the driver's seat of this, because the most we could do is kind of facilitate. So it's a question of basically how MEAs would organize themselves to create the content or draft the content, because that's the real value add. And then the next question is how it would be then the second stage of translated into the interactive format and questions of budget and so forth. But in principle, it's a really good idea. But of course, as with all things, it's budget and resources and everything dependent.
Indeed, Peter, and if I may say, it's not only that. So now we have MEA subsections, but remember that we were also getting into creating additional categories within the overall front page that would involve gender, where we at the moment have the gender course under governance. And if we are considering doing something like this also for indigenous, and then there was also the point about human rights section that would be taken out. So now we hear indigenous peoples. I think it falls potentially also into this category. Of course, you can have courses in multiple places. And then we also had the idea of so basically, and I'm conscious of the fact that the person who will stand in for me for 2 years is a very strong lawyer, so she could probably help us a lot with the kind of curating these particular courses as well, potentially, if they are in. But ideally, what would happen is that if MEAs agree that they want to have this and they want to chip in, and we have identified the key MEAs, then to find jointly a consultant who can develop the substance, or the other MEAs endorse that an MEA takes the lead through its already existing work, and then they make their time available to chip in and review and have their legal officers look over the content of this initial draft and then have the time to put in. Because what we have seen in these cross-cutting courses is that you really need to have this as a joint project of the MEAs and to make sure that they are appropriately reflected. And you don't want to be in a situation where one can hold the other hostage with never having the time to look into it. So then you have to have a fallback option. So these are just the things that we have experienced when we had cross-cutting courses. And sometimes we have basically been able to work with an initial draft from some other part, like the gender and environment course, of course, I think was already existing in some shape or form. And then the MEAs have looked at it again. While the course of gender and Minamata was a specific course that was looking at the gender aspect for this particular convention. So it's just something to consider for us also. How are we going to work at that level, irrespective of the deeper MEA pages? While then the work of putting this into the course format, into the RISE, that depends. If we are prioritizing, then we can, of course, do it into this. Through the joint pool, and then every relevant MEA can contribute a few, whatever is there, and then one can make it happen. Or we can even say it's so high up in the priority because it already exists that it can be slotted amongst the ones under the InfoMEA project as is. Good. If there are no more specific questions, I think we have some idea of how to proceed.